It's time for the playoffs, and lucky for me, I have all the NHL's biggest stars. I have Artemi Panarin. I have Rasmus Dahlin. I have Nazem Kadri. I have Roman Josi. I have Travis Konechny. And I have Sharks legend Mikael Granlund. I can't wait to see all of these guys with their respective teams in the playoffs. Wait a second. Alright, I admit that was a little mean-spirited, but all the bad teams are gone, folks. We're only talking about the kinda bad to very good teams now. Everybody does playoff predictions, but I think that's kinda boring. So today, I'm doing the playoff fun ranking. If you're a random fan, if you're a fan of one of the teams I made fun of in the intro, consider this a viewing guide. Which series should you tune into if you have a couple to choose from? Oh, the old freaking ball and chains only letting you watch one game tonight? I'm telling you which one you should watch. We're going through each playoff series and ranking them from least fun to most fun. Which ones are must tune into, and which ones you can replace by watching an episode of The Floor. I'm imagining Rob Lowe being between the benches and doing the whole floor bit. He's wearing a hat that says NHL, and every time a goal goes in, he just goes.
McDavid up top. Emerson, a shot, he scores, and there's 100 points.
Rob, you aren't stopping that shit. Come on. This year we're actually pretty spoiled with quality series throughout the playoffs, so it was actually fairly hard to make this list. And yes, we'll talk about hockey and the team quality too. But remember, fun trumps all. We're here for fun. And understand that what is fun for me is not necessarily fun for you, fan of the team that we are watching. A team blowing a 3-0 series lead will make me go ha 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 as my Penguins watch from the golf course, but you'll probably need to go out to your car and stare forward for a little while. So let's start at the bottom here. Who is putting together the least fun series? Fun fact, I went to college with a guy who, when we would play NHL together, even if he got the Devils as his random team selection, he would not play as them because they were Satan's team. That's true, I'm telling you the truth. I, on the other hand, will not be taking the Devils here because they make me sad. There is very little to look forward to in this series for me, which is particularly disappointing because a couple months ago this series would have been great. Jack Hughes versus Mikko Rantanen getting to be the big dog for the first time. But Jack is hurt, Mikko's gone, and Dougie Hamilton, whose blast from the point epitomized fun,
isn't hurt anymore. He's healthy, totally healthy and ready to go.
So the star power isn't there, really, and the big dogs are Jesper Bratt and Sebastian Aho. Great players, but I don't think either of them are going to be on the cover of the next NHL game. Not like true superstar Trevor Zegras. I think we pulled the trigger a little early on that one. So without the star power, will this at least be an even series? No, I really don't think so. Realistically, I don't think the Devils have much of a chance against the Canes. They putted to the finish line without Jack Hughes or Dougie Hamilton. Jacob Markstrom isn't playing at superstar levels or really anywhere close. The Canes, while they don't have Mikko Rantanen anymore, are a much more complete unit, and now they have Freddie Anderson, who's been playing very well to end the year. The only way I can see the Devils winning is if the Canes finishing completely evaporates and Markstrom winds it back to the bubble. My oddly specific prediction, shout out to Sean McIndoe, who's pioneered the oddly specific predictions, for this series is that Timo Meier has some sort of weird meltdown and elbows someone in the head and gets thrown out. Nikita Kucherov style. I feel like Vegas has gone a little under the radar this year, but they're as good as ever. The Eichel-Stone-Barbashev line is just so good. Barbashev just wrecks things down low and gives it to those two super skill guys. Their second line is about as perfect a secondary scoring line as you could ask for with Thomas Hertl, Pavel Dorofeev, and Brandon Saad. Dorofeev and Hertl have basically controlled over 60% of the expected goals with anybody who's with them. Saad's just the most recent. Dorofeev's first on the team in shots and Hertl's third. Then the third line is Riley Smith back and looking like he gives a crap again after not caring for the past 2 years, with William Karlsson and I guess Brett Howden, who's been up and down their lineup as they rest guys. Brett Howden has over 20 goals this year, by the way. That's a big Rangers fan slamming your head against the wall line. Then a fourth line of Tanner Pearson, Nicola Waugh, and Keegan Colasar. That'd be a third line on many teams. Oh, and they have two number one quality defensemen in Shea Theodore and Noah Hannafin. Oh, and Alex Pietrangelo, and a bunch of good fill-in guys like Braden McNabb and Caden Korczak. And Aiden Hill is resoundingly okay. Now, if I wrote this last week, I'd have declared that the Wild are dead. Then I watched nearly 3 periods of them against the Ducks and thought to myself, oh, they're not just dead, they're decomposed. Then, in the final minute, Eriksson Ek tied it to send his team to the playoffs. And it all made sense. See, for much of this season, the Wild have been valiantly trying to stay afloat without Eriksson Ek or Kaprizov for long stretches. When they didn't have either of those guys, they went just 8-10-3, and it's not like they did better when just one of them was in the lineup. But those two came back in that gunfight against San Jose. Eriksson Ek scored 4 goals. And things just kind of seem different with this team. They have really great vibes, like the Eastern teams I'll talk about a little bit later. The problem is, I think they're still kind of bad. Brock Faber always looks great. He looked incredible at the Four Nations. But if you look at his underlyings, he's always kind of getting caved in. I think the Eichel line is probably too much for him, even with Brodin. Really, I think the better play for the Wild would be to play Spurgeon more than Faber. I don't think the depth beyond the first line is particularly good or interesting. Marcus Johansson, Gus Nyquist, those guys are basically first-round exit prerequisites. And while I admire the Wild and I like many of their players a lot, this is a series that I could see ending very quickly. I think the hard they chose is just going to be a little bit too difficult this time. My prediction is that the Wild win Game 2, regardless of who won Game 1, sending Vegas into a little bit of a panic, but Vegas still wins the series in either 5 or 6 games.
With the Kings.
Even if it doesn't end up being fun, it has the potential to be funny. These teams, the Kings and Oilers, are going to play for a 4th time in a row. Of those years, this is probably the best iteration of the Kings and the weakest iteration of the Oilers. The Kings finally have goaltending. The Oilers do not. The Kings finally have a real honest chance to beat the Oilers. It's probably the first time in these 4 years that they're better than the Oilers on paper. And it would be so funny if they lost again. Do these teams hate each other? Like, that's an honest question. I don't know. I think they do. They've played each other so many times, they have to, right? But there's been no, major inciting incident. I cover a lot of major inciting incidents, but there doesn't seem to be one here. There's no nasty hit or horrible media thing. They just kind of hate each other out of necessity, out of the reality that they're going to play each other every year until the heat death of the universe. So most of the fun for me is in the storyline. Will the Kings eat it for a 4th year in a row? Will they then give players to the Canucks so that they can fall into a wild card slot and get to play someone else? I think this will probably be a pretty good series, but it's one that I've already seen 3 times. I don't know, it's humorous, but I'm not going to say it's overly fun. My oddly specific prediction is that McLovin, aka Warren Fogle, scores a game winner in the only game the Kings win in the series. Bonjour mes amis, je pense que les vibes de les Canadiens de Montréal sont très beaux. Le petit homme des buts, Caulfield, a un tir magnifique. Le premier centre en la ligue, Nick Suzuki, a marqué plus 80 points. La première fois depuis Alex Kovalev. Et Ivan Demidov, Cole Hudson. L'avenir est prometteur. Et les Capitals de quoi? Par le Québec, Alex Ovechkin peut avoir plus de buts que Ivan Demidov, mais a-t-il une chanson? Je ne pense pas. I don't think the Habs will ultimately beat the Caps, but their energy is so positive. Their depth makes me go, ah! But they remind me a little bit of the 2017 Toronto Maple Leafs. A group that isn't really ready, but will put up a genuine fight against a great team. That, compounded with the fact that I'm a Capitals skeptic, actually has me really looking forward to this series. Hello, real thinkers. Welcome to the Third Eye Corner with me, the capital skeptic. Big shooting percentage wants you to think that Alexei Protas and Tom Wilson are gonna shoot 20% in the playoffs. But I've been doing my own research in a Facebook moms group, and a mother of 4 children with names that end in EIGH told me that that just isn't sustainable. She told me that every single one of their double-digit goal scorers is shooting over their career shooting percentage. So unfortunately, I will be siding against the cabal and putting my energy behind the Canadiens. Tune in next week where we have on Jacob Chikrin to talk about his diet. Genuinely though, I think this series is a dark horse to be the most fun. I predict that Patrick Laine will score 2 or more times in the first 2 games, and there will be some sort of weird graphic comparing him to Ovechkin. How is it the 2 of the most exciting and also fairly nasty teams have combined for 2 relatively boring series in the past 3 years? 2022 was this ultra exciting, high-octane Panthers team getting crushed by Tampa Bay. Then last year, the Bolts looked like an empire on decline getting stomped into oblivion by the Panthers. These teams hate each other plenty, but so far one team has been clobbering the other team so convincingly that there hasn't really been much reciprocal violence. Here's why I think this year will be different. First off, the Bolts are monstrous this season, and that stems back to one man, Andrei Vasilevskiy. He was meh in 2022 and 23. He was honestly kinda bad last year. But this year, Andrei Vasilevskiy is Andrei Vasilevskiy. Jake Gensel over Steven Stamkos seems like the right call. Early in the year, it seemed like they were a 2-line team, and that was definitely a problem. And then they added Yanni Gordon, Oliver Bjorkstrand, and that doesn't seem to be a problem anymore. Tampa is a very, very good team. Second, I'm not sure how good the Panthers really are. That seems like blasphemy given the last 2 years, but honestly, I don't know. They've had pretty bad finishing luck all season. Like, Carter Verhaeghe isn't going to shoot 8% in the playoffs. We all know that. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's just bad luck. Maybe not. I do think a lot of people will give a cursory look to this series and just expect it to be a rerun of last year. Instead, I think it's going to be 2 teams on a similar level, and I don't think I can call it for either one. Honestly, it's the East Coast version of Avs Stars. Avs Stars for people who want to go to bed. As for predictions, I see the Lightning going up 3-1 in this series, and then the Panthers either melting down completely or fighting back to win it in 7. I know a lot of hearts in Winnipeg sank when Joel Eriksson Ek scored that goal to lock up Wildcard 1 for Minnesota, because the Jets now get to play the scorching hot Blues. In their last 25 games, the Blues are 19-4-2. Now, the Jets are one of those regulation losses. That's promising. The Jets are obviously a great team. They won the President's Trophy, but they're a team that relies on one player very heavily, and that's Connor Hellebuyck. Playoff Hellebuyck is less bad than you would think, given that it's a trend big enough to have had a name. It's more weird. Like in 2021 when he was a brick wall against the high-powered Oilers and then got Swiss cheesed by the Canadiens. And since then he was bad in 2023 and awful in 2024. I think this is probably just an example of us having a very small sample size. In years past, the Jets' top line was one of the most fun lines in hockey, with Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele, and whoever, Alex Iafallo last year, Blake Wheeler the year before. Because they were great offensively, but also rancid defensively. This year with Gabe Vilardi, they've been a little bit more reliable. Still not good, but better defensively. Why I mention this is because I think this line is the key to either the Blues winning, or at least making it a series and it being fun, or the Jets winning pretty quickly and it being fairly boring. The Blues love their muck and grind line of Walker, Faksa, and Toropchenko, but I think if they use them against the Jets' top line in an effort to shut them down, they'll suppress some chances, yes, but they're ultimately going to get killed, while the Jets' Tanev, Barron, and Iafallo line ultimately outperforms them in a shutdown role. What I think the Blues should do, and frankly what I think they will do, because I have a lot of faith in Jim Montgomery, is go best on best. At least when you have last change, go with the Snuggerud, Shen, Kyrou line against the Jets' top line. Hopefully Snuggerud can fill the hole left by Dylan Holloway, and if he can, or Holloway comes back, I think that the Blues can really torch the Jets best on best. I think this series has a lot of potential. It has a very high ceiling, though I also think it has a fairly low floor, with the chance that Hellebuck just turns the Blues back into a pumpkin. I think one of the first 3 games in this series will have more than 10 goals scored. These are 2 very good teams that can play a high-octane game if they want to. I'd like to see it. Which team will melt down more if they lose? Toronto is kind of used to this. I mean, do you guys even feel anything after these losses anymore? But this time, if you lose to your little brother in Ottawa, and you have to tolerate Sens fans holding that over you for probably the rest of your days, Steve Dangle will become the Joker. Now, if Ottawa loses, after constantly being just a little bit overzealous about their team, and suddenly having to turn on a dime and being like, oh, we're actually not even good yet. We're not even good yet, and you beat a team that sucks. Just wait until Brady's 26. Then we'll show you. I think the hockey itself will be fun, but this series isn't about being fun based on those merits alone. I think Blues Jets or Lightning Panthers probably put on more fun individual games, but with the Leafs, it's always going to be about this drama and this theater off the ice, or even carrying over from game to game. There are a lot of good players to watch here, though. The Tkachuk factor always adds something. It'll be fun to see Brady in the playoffs for the first time, presumably doing crimes of some sort. Something of note, the Leafs have gotten very good goaltending from Anthony Stolarz in particular. But Joseph Woll is no slouch either. I don't know if they go with just Stolarz or with a platoon between him and Woll, but having 2 competent goalies kind of shields the Leafs from a full-on goaltender meltdown. Even if Stolarz isn't a star in the playoffs, there is some degree of insurance. I actually have 2 predictions, one silly and one, semi-serious. On the ridiculous end of the spectrum, I do think Brady Tkachuk will do something egregious in a game that Wes McCauley is officiating. It will go uncalled. A bunch of people will vaguely remember that Wes McCauley hates the Leafs, but they'll forget about the whole reason that he hates the Leafs is because of Sheldon Keefe specifically. If you don't know what I'm talking about, read this book. On the more reasonable end, I do think that Jake Sanderson is going to play like 31 minutes a night, thanks in part to an overtime. The broadcast is going to play clips of some incredible plays that he made against the core 4. He's going to play out of his mind. Everyone's going to say he's the best Senators player. The overtime game's going to go really deep. The Sens are going to be facing elimination. He'll play 45 minutes or something. And it doesn't really matter if the Sens win or lose because he played really well, and he played really well against the Leafs, so he's going to be borderline legendary forever. He's going to get the full-on Seth Jones 2020 bubble treatment. I mean, you knew it was this one. How could you not be hyped? I mean, you probably aren't hyped if you're an Avs or a Stars fan, but for everybody else, hell yeah. Obviously, there's the Mikko Rantanen Bowl. Can Robin Mikko rise above his former Batman Nathan McKinnon and beat the Avs? Then there's the Matt Duchene Bowl, who left the Avs right as they were getting good again. He kicked around the league. It didn't really look like he was going to ever be like a superstar again. Then he rose back to stardom with the Predators and got squashed by the Avs in the 2022 playoffs. He didn't play very well in 2023, had to sign this ultra bargain deal with the Stars, became a star again, and then re-signed another bargain deal this year with the Stars to try and chase a cup, and he's ultra good once again, and he plays the Avs, and is he gonna lose again? I don't know. That's the joy. Also, Gabe Landeskog is coming back. Are you kidding me? It's basically unheard of for a guy to be injured for 3 years. He didn't retire. He's not like Mario, who retired and came back. He was injured for 3 years, and he came back. He's coming back to play in the NHL. Even if he isn't the monster he was when he left, imagine him as a fourth-line mucker. You're Sam Steele, Oscar Back, and Colin Blackwell, and suddenly the best-case scenario is the line with Gabriel Landeskog coming at you. These teams both have a lot of firepower. They have goalies that have had questionable streaks. As great as Jake Ottinger is, he's had questionable streaks. And freaking... it's Mackenzie Blackwood. We're still talking about Mackenzie Blackwood. So I think the scoring is going to be there. I think this is going to be an all-time series. We rarely get the opportunity to see two teams of this quality in the first round. If a time traveler came back to me and said that either of these teams won the cup, I'd yawn. Be like, what do I eat for dinner tonight? Now, why does it matter that it's in the first round? That's a great question. Because typically, first round series are the best. Teams are less tired. They've usually been rested for a few weeks. They're still a little sloppy as far as their play is concerned. They're not locked into their shutdown playoff grinding style of play. So there are goals still. Even in the conference finals, we don't always get two teams of this quality. Usually it's a great team and some bum who came stumbling in. Something to keep an eye on, though. The Stars are hobbling to the finish line. Yeah, their games don't matter right now, but that doesn't really make it any better to me. They had a 6-game losing streak to the Penguins, the Kaprizov and Eriksson Eklas Wild, the Canucks, the Jets, sure, Utah, and the Red Wings. 5 teams that, to varying degrees, suck. Ultimately, though, if you like hockey, you tune into these games. Please, Stars. Please, Avalanche. Go 7 games. Or at least 6. My prediction is that we see at least one of the 2 starting goalies struggle, and that we see either Scott Wedgwood or Casey DeSmith have exactly one good game to make everyone go, So that's it, my friends. That's my fun ranking. Let me know who you would have put higher on the list, or lower on the list, or who would have been a better team. I actually think every series would have been more fun if the Penguins were in it. Everybody's saying, Avalanche Stars. I'm like, have you seen Matt Nieto? But yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in. It's always really great to have people care about what I say about hockey. But I really do appreciate every single one of you guys. Thank you guys so much for coming out and watching. I'm trying to put out a video every week. I don't really know what I'm doing next week, but I'll figure it out. I bet it'll be something good. But as always, it's been a pleasure. See you soon.